3, 2, 1. All right, let's bring on Geoff Schwartz, former Giants offensive lineman, now media mogul. Has his own Big Boys Club run before the draft, which is really what do you call it? How do you describe it, Geoff? Is it a TV piece for Fox Sports?
Yeah, it's basically Gruden's quarterback camp, but for offensive linemen, right?
Okay.
We don't do 30-minute episodes for every lineman, but we have the big the show, the package show that's about an hour long. I mean, if it gets digitally, it's about 43 minutes long, right? For TV, it ends up being an hour. And then we have individual pieces for each guy that are 8 to 10 minutes. That we watch some film, we talk a little bit about life and those. So we end up having 6-ish, the long show plus the 5 individual pieces. And we have some other stuff we might create out of that. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, we get to know these offensive linemen, and we've been very fortunate to have a lot of guys drafted early in the draft.
Right.
And then
you had 3 of the top 4 linemen, including Evan Neal, which is one of the reasons why you're here.
And again, this is Duke's doing, right? He gets these guys.
Right.
It's not like
Duke Manyweather he's talking about.
Yes.
Who's both of our friends, but offensive line guru. I know he doesn't like that term, but
but so it's credit to Duke for getting these guys, but then we get them on the show. So it's a lot of fun to do. And I think it's a position people don't know a lot about. So when guys get drafted, it's fun to share, like, hey, Giants fans, here's your new left tackle. I guess he might play right tackle, but here, Seattle fans, here's your left tackle. Saints fans, here's Trevor Penning. And so even for the Chiefs, got Darren Kennard in the 5th round, and the Patriots got Stuber, I believe, in the 7th round. So it's a lot of fun to do. And, the guys enjoy it. I think people enjoy watching, learning about offensive linemen.
Well, we'll get to Evan Neal in a minute, but I actually caught, I got caught up. I watched it on YouTube this morning, Big Boys Club. What do you learn? And it's a big jump. This is the second year.
Yes.
So I noticed it's like a big jump. What are you learning about this TV game there?
Well, I think this is about TV, and I've done this show. I'm actually have another show that will be out in September that I have to kind of keep a little secret right now, but I will continue that. And
that's a good tease. See, you're learning.
Yes,
you're learning this game.
I just got off a call about we're going to be filming next couple of weeks again. So is that I'm an offensive lineman, so I'm good at executing. So like, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. I'm not the creative person. Like, I'm not like coming up with the creative ideas on what to do. Like, the whole pedicure, like, that was not me. The minivan wasn't me. Like, the little I thought one of my favorite parts was the little guys that we moved around, like, and did that little
almost like the army, the little army soldier pieces, but football players.
Yes,
on the table.
I don't come up with any of that. I'm good at executing. I'm an offensive lineman. Tell me who to block, tell me what to do, and I'll execute it at a high level. So the other thing I learned about doing TV is a lot of setup and then waiting. Like, you just wait.
Yeah.
So everything's set up. I mean, like, you might be outside. I mean, I'm sure like you've been outside doing a hit and you're there like an hour and they're like, all right, we're coming to you. And you do it for 3 minutes. And you're like, well,
how about 30 seconds?
Yeah. Okay. And you're like, okay, well, I'm set up for an hour, but that's the way it feels like with this. I mean, look, and the quality of this year to last year, I'm not saying last year was bad, but we got the first season, we did it in like 2 weeks, like filmed it, edited it out. And this time we had so much more time. We had more cameras, we had better cameras, and we had a full staff. And so it was just better quality, right? And the music was better. It all looked better because we just had more time to do it. It wasn't that the first episode was bad, the first season. There's just more time. We started playing this in December, where last time it was a tweet I sent out in March. The bosses saw it, and we got it greenlit like middle of March, and it's out by middle of April. So this process this year was just a lot easier to do because we had more time. But again, like, I'm just there to film. The Fox digital team, editing it, putting it together, getting it ready, that's all them, man. That's not me at all. So I give them all the credit for making it look good.
So is this kind of what you envisioned when you came to the Giants, right? The benefits of being in the New York market and getting into this media, TV, entertainment game.
I always wanted to do it. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I listened to Vin Scully and Chick Hearn call games, and I just felt very fortunate. That's obviously the Dodgers and Lakers announcements.
Chick Hearn not being portrayed too great in this.
I'm actually surprised. So him and Jerry West are getting just roasted in this show. Yeah, Chick Hearn. It's funny because I don't know what's real. It's a drama, right? It's
Yeah.
dramatized. Like, you don't know what's real, what's not. But I'm like, man, I grew up like loving this guy. He seems like a big jerk behind the scenes.
Yeah, I know. I had no idea. I've been watching him like, wow, Chick Hearn, I thought was just this legend, but hey,
Yeah,
he's not
jerk.
getting portrayed very nicely.
Yeah. So,
But-
so I think a lot of us wanted to call games. I'm like, sweet, it'd be so fun to like call games. And then that's what every athlete wants to do. And when I got to New York, I did some TV stuff, on Tuesdays and whatnot, during the season a little bit. And I never know what I wanted to do. And now I feel like I'm in a good spot where I love doing the radio stuff that I do. The TV stuff is fun. I mean, TV stuff, it's interesting. You get paid more and do less than radio. It's a different type of vibe when you're on TV. And then, I've always wanted to do this type of show with offensive linemen. And I found a willing partner in Fox Sports because otherwise it's hard to get made. You need to have rights for the footage. And that's the one thing, that's what I learned, the rights. The rights for the footage.
It's a big deal. It's big pull and pull. You can only use certain things so many minutes.
And like
there's a lot of
couldn't get made.
I
can make it on my own, but I'm gonna get a season's assist on YouTube if I post these clips without getting express written consent. So it's I never thought I would do a show like this. I tried for years to pitch it and get it done, and then we went to Fox when I was there last year and we got it done. So I think they really like it. It's like their big digital project of the year. And it gets a lot of views, man. It gets a lot of attention. So I think they're happy with it.
Well, we know what's next, right? You've been a big proponent of this for a while now. You want the offensive line expert on the broadcast, sort of like how they have the kicking expert. So that's where we're going here. So we're going to put that out there. If anyone's watching, offensive line expert on the NFL broadcast, kind of like you have the kicking expert or the officiating expert.
Yes. I don't know. I think that would be a valuable part of the game.
I mean, it's a bigger part of the game than at least the kicking part of the game is. So
I don't see why not. To Jay Feely, but they're like, Jay, it's windy out there. You have to kick it harder. I mean, I think Jim Nantz could tell us that.
Yeah, I think the normal Joe. We'll get to Evan Neal in a second because people are like, cut the crap. Let's get to the Giants draft picks already. But we like the kicking stuff is more relatable to the normal Joe,
yes,
than the offensive line stuff. Like we can understand kicking and we can understand the wind and how it's a big deal, and and the snap needs to be good. Like it seems to be on a more explainable version than the offensive line, which is like just Greek to the normal Joe.
But I think that I can make it easier to learn. Like I think I do a good job of it. I could explain it in those moments and let people get insight into the position, just like we do with kickers. Like I think I can do that if you give me 30 seconds on a broadcast to be like, here's what happened. I think I could do a good job where people get something out of watching that segment.
All right, so it's out there. We know where this needs to go, but let's get to what the people want. They want to know about Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeaux. You're a Pac-12 expert. I almost said Pac.
Don't. This is East Coast bias just coming in right away. Don't even know the name of our conference.
Well, I say it about that. I mean, all these other conferences. I can't get any of their names right anymore. There are too much changing. But anyway, you do the Pac-12. You're analyst out there. So you went to Oregon. So you're plugged into that.
Yes.
That school, that community. So we'll get to Thibodeaux in a second, but let's start with Evan Neal. You're doing this big boys club. He's one of the main guys. You go there. What do you know about him? What do you learn? And what do you come away thinking?
Well, I don't know the players personally until I get there. Right. Duke obviously knows those guys, and that if Duke takes someone, he's vouching for their character, right? He's not just training anybody. But I think I come away talking to Neal and learning his story just about how mature he is, right? He's just a very mature individual. He had to go away, quotes, right? I mean, he went to IMG. It's not like he went away, right. But
and he's from Florida. He stayed in the state of Florida, so he wasn't
he left.
But still,
home.
You're living away from home as a 16-year-old, whatever.
Yeah, but you're doing it also at IMG. It's not like you're going to a good spot to be at. But nonetheless, he moved away from home when he was 16. He's at IMG. He goes to Alabama. He's played in a lot of big time games. He's played a lot of different positions. He played well. He's a very mature individual.
3 years, 3 positions.
Yeah, he's just very mature. Like when you talk to him, even like when you saw him get drafted. Like it wasn't like the most emotion I think he showed was when his parents did the audio where his parents, like, he just kind of like stoic, right? Like,
Yeah, he seems very understated as like a person. That's like my first impression for sure.
Like he expected to be here. I expected this situation to happen. He put in the work. He talked about on the show, and any of you'll talk about this too. It's like he lost all this weight. Like he understood. Hey, I'm too heavy. I need to lose weight to play better. And he did all this, and he achieved it. So to me, just learning about the person, I watched his film. I know what he does on film before I get there, but it's about learning about who they are as people. And I think you're going to be really happy to have him just as a leader on that offensive line. Eventually, obviously, as a rookie, it might be hard to be a leader, but a guy that again has played a lot of pressure situations, and he doesn't back down from having the challenge of playing the big time games. And we know that whether or not the Giants are good or not, you're going to have 5 primetime games. You're going to be on national television a bunch, and your hope, of course, that eventually you play in some of those bigger games.
380 pounds, he said in 8th grade,
yes.
Which is just, even Kayvon Thibodeaux was sitting there when he said that, like 380 pounds in 8th grade. Some of the video that I saw of him as like
incredible
in middle school, or like, it's unbelievable. He's just humongous. He is one, like, Duke sent me a picture of him next to Mekhi Becton, and they're both just huge individuals.
Oh, it's wild.
But Evan Neal is able to, hold that weight. It seems like effortlessly at 340, 350 pounds to hold that weight like it's nothing. I mean, to me, it kind of stands out. I mean, what did you notice when you saw him for the first time?
Well, yeah, I mean, he carries the weight really well, which is fantastic. And the way he's able to move, just kind of watching him work out, and is very impressive. Obviously, getting to watch his film, and he still, I think, is able to manipulate his body either direction. If he wants to add 10 more pounds of muscle or drop even more weight, he's able to do that. I think he can go in kind of different directions with that, or even just kind of firm up the 337 pounds. So there's a lot of room for him to grow with his body. I mean, that's the thing about a lot of these players. I mean, they're 21 years old, man. They're not even at a mature body structure yet. They have 3 or 4. There's that saying in football, like old man strength. It's certainly there, but you get it like 27, 28, 29, 30. They're still not even there yet. So there's a lot of room for growth in his game. There's something he needs to work on as well. But I think you added a mature player who I thought was the best offensive tackle at 7. Like the Giants, there was almost no way to screw it up. In my opinion, I tweeted this beforehand, like the way you're 5 and 7, you kind of were going to either get an offensive lineman, a corner, or a pass rusher, like 2 of those 3 guys.
3 premium positions.
Which is good. And they got the 2, in my opinion, the 2 guys with the most upside, right? With Evan Neal and with Kayvon Thibodeaux. So I like what they did. They did well. Even if I expected them to do well, they did just as well as I thought they would.
Would you kind of mentioned you view Neal as the top tackle?
Yeah, I think his ability to pass protect is better right now. And Ike Ekwonu, who went to the Carolina Panthers at 6, his run blocking might be the best trait of any offensive lineman in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
We saw last year that the better of the 2 tackles, Slater was the better tackle than Penei. So I think Penei will be just as good at some point. Was it Rashawn was a better pass protector in college? That translated over pretty well. Penei was the great run blocker, a little more raw in pass protection. Back to this year, Icky, great run blocker, raw in pass protection. Oversets too much, gets beat inside. Evan Neal's a good run blocker, can be great, good pass protector. His issue is he falls off blocks late. So if he kind of blocks into someone and then gets down the field a little bit and falls off him. Or in pass protection, he blocks someone, and then they make another move and he falls off that block. That's just a little bit more training and stamina and core strength. So I think Evan Neal was the most ready, and I think he's a tackle. I mean, some people view Icky as a guard. And so I thought,
I've heard that for sure.
Yeah. I think the Giants got the best offensive tackle at 7. So they did a really good job.
They were obviously okay getting with multiple of those choices, because they passed on the tackle at 5, knowing that all 3 tackles were still there and that they would get one. And the Panthers likely were going to take one. They ended up taking Ekwonu, leaves Giants with Neal, who I believe was their top tackle. You mentioned the falling off of blocks. Do you view that as a long-term concern? Is that something that is instinctive, or is that something, why do you think it's a fixable thing?
Well, to me, it's just about kind of like just stamina and core strength, right? Like you're kind of just going through the block, and then eventually your body kind of gets tired a little bit and you fall off the block. It doesn't mean he's out of shape, but I think it's something you can really work on with, and I know he's doing it with Duke, just kind of getting your hips stronger and your core stronger, just to be able to, as you strain to finish someone, you're in a good balanced position. Again, it's not that he doesn't try to finish someone. As he goes to finish someone, he narrows up his base a little bit, or in pass projections, his feet kind of stop a little bit. And so I think the ability to just continue to train those movements and get stronger at those things shouldn't be an issue. But again, it's not like it's a very nitpicky thing. Like he's not, it doesn't lead to a lot of issues in this game. But if a quarterback holds the ball too long, it happened against Auburn, and a guy just slipped off him late, he got a sack. You have a sack. Now, most coaches would say, hey, the ball should be gone. I get that. But yeah, again, that's on him. He's got to be better at that. I think he knows that. And something that it's easily, in my opinion, fixable with proper training.
Yeah, or you might see it when you're running back. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Dances around too much and you're asked to hold your block a little bit longer, which, hey, might or might not happen with the Giants, with Saquon Barkley in the backfield a little more than most. But anyway, how do you feel knowing now that the Giants, obviously trying to rebuild this line again? It's been a constant since you've been here, since before you've been here. Evan Neal on the right side, Andrew Thomas on the right side. Those two young players as your bookend tackles. How do you feel when I say that?
I think it's good. It's a good start, right? I think there's kind of there's multiple ways to go about team building, but there's, the idea of like, let's just get good players and worry about quarterback later. And the Giants are doing that, right? Like let's get good players. Let's get the best tackle, the best pass rusher. We think let's get good players, get them in our offense, get them in our defense, and we'll figure out Daniel Jones after the season, right?
Well, isn't that what Buffalo did the first year Brandon Beane got there? What did they do? That's what they did. Who was their quarterback? It was Tyrod Taylor, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I get the philosophy of like, let's just get good players. And I think the Lions are doing that now. The Lions are a great example of this. Like, well, let's just get good players. And when the quarterback situation happens next year, I would imagine we'll go get ourselves, CJ Stroud, or we'll go trade up to get Bryce Young. Right. And the Giants are putting themselves in that opportunity now of just getting good players, like not worrying about, do we need a quarterback now? Do we not? Just get the best offensive lineman, get the best pass rusher, and two positions where we need help. You never have too many of those guys. And especially in that division, there's some good pass rushers they're facing each week. So I really, I like what they did. Again, my opinion, it was hard to screw up, and they did the right thing and they didn't screw it up.
Well, they just went with what they thought were the two best players when they're sitting there picking at those two spots, which, like you said, I mean, that's what you should be doing at this point, because they have enough needs, like where we could fill up pretty much every premium position. Right.
And I'm glad they didn't trade back. I know there's an idea that trading back and get more things. You could have done that, but I think
they were only going to do it if it was a future first round pick, because then that would help them with what you're talking about in regards to the future quarterback and doing it next year.
Yeah. No, and I think that other teams around the NFL, they don't scout ahead. They kind of know what's up for next year. I think there's a lot of teams like Eagles, Dolphins kind of setting themselves up for next year with a lot of draft picks to go get themselves a guy if they want.
It's a great contingency plan, right? And if you're going to have a contingency plan at one position, you need it at quarterback. So, I mean, the Giants would have loved to. It wasn't the year to do it because, as we saw, the league did not like these quarterbacks at all. They did not like the quarterbacks.
I didn't either. I actually thought that the NFL teams showed restraint. I was actually very pleased NFL teams decided not to draft these guys and not go over the top to take guys I didn't think were going to be that good in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, from everyone I heard, they're like, these quarterbacks aren't good. We don't like these quarterbacks. And usually people say that, and then you end up seeing quarterbacks drafted high. But this year, nobody was messing around. They really didn't like these quarterbacks very much. So now we look towards the fifth pick. He actually was the Giants' first pick. Kayvon Thibodeaux. You saw him play plenty of times throughout his Oregon career. Oregon alum. You did games. You've been there for games, even this past year. What did you see from him, and how do you see him sort of translating to the NFL?
So it's a good question. The character stuff and the love of the game and the arrogant stuff. I mean, some of that, he comes off sometimes as liking and caring about a brand, which can you rush the passer or not? I don't. It's so funny, man. Like we had other players in college football that had podcasts during the season. Like during the season, no one said anything about that.
Yeah.
But Kayvon made a comment in the offseason about how he wanted to go to Oregon because he liked the brand building opportunities over Alabama. He didn't even do any of that in college. So it's like, what are we doing here? And we've talked about this privately. Like, I think some of it, like he gave some odd questions, some odd answers at the Senior Bowl and the Combine. Like that's all true. I heard the answers. Yeah. You like him to say, I love football all the time. It's all I do. Yeah. But like, that's not who he is, right? It's not his personality.
If you're going to eliminate all the guys that think that way at this point, you're not going to have a lot of players. This is the new age. And Joe Schoen said this. This is how the world is. These guys are, first of all, they make money in college now. They're legitimately, some of these guys, the top guys, they're making real money. So they're coming in a different place. They already have outside interest. They have ability to do things that you weren't able to do when you were at Oregon.
Right. So, okay. So about his game, and look, there are concerns about, they're talking about his stiffness a little bit and and I think the biggest concern for me when I watch him play is his hand usage, right? His hands just aren't at the level of Aiden Hutchinson. The question is whether or not they can get better. I certainly think they can, right? Because again, his first step is better than Aiden, better than Travon Walker. His ability to close on a quarterback is really good. When he beats an offensive lineman, his ability, and that's what I think that sets a lot of defensive ends apart. It's what Aaron Donald does great. It's what JJ Watt has done great for so many years is when they get past the offensive lineman, how quickly do they go from like getting past them to sacking the quarterback? And Kayvon's really good at that. Like once he gets past, boom, he's like able to get to the quarterback. Another concern that I felt kind of unfounded was this idea of he doesn't run downfield and he lacks hustle on the field. Go back and watch him as a true freshman in 19. Go watch him last season. I mean, he blocked punts as a true freshman. He's running downfield, catching guys from behind. There's a play in the Pac-12 championship game in 2019 where he chases down Tyler Huntley for a tackle for loss on the sideline. Last season, he gets hurt against Fresno in week 1. Before that, by the way, he had a pressure and a strip sack in the first 2 drives of the game. Gets hurt down the field, like going to make a play down the field. Someone rolls on his ankle. He's out about 4 weeks. And then he just like decided, I'm not going to run down the field anymore. I'm not going to get hurt, which I get it. I mean, is it great? No, but he clearly was like, I'm not going to do this anymore because he had done it throughout his entire career.
Right.
I think, guess what? I think he'll do it in the NFL. Like, I don't know why he wouldn't. And I feel like this is a thing.
Well, if he's worried about his brand, he'll do it in the NFL because the better player you are, the better it's going to help your brand. And if you're a star and you're an all pro, that's the best way to grow your brand.
Exactly. But I also think like, this is a Pac-12 issue. Like people don't pay attention to the Pac-12, which is fine. It is what it is. So you don't kind of know the ins and outs of like the injury that he had. And, like the idea that he doesn't love football, he didn't have to come back. Like when they lost to Stanford, Oregon did, the title was done. Like they weren't winning a championship. Like that was it. They weren't going to the championship game. He could have just sat out after that. He got tossed from the game for a really bad helmet to helmet. It wasn't even helmet to helmet targeting. Like he just been like, you know what, Jordan, Oregon, I'm done. I'm not playing anymore. I'm going to the NFL. We would have been like, cool, buddy, good for you.
Yeah,
like,
Joe Schoen said that. Joe Schoen said that they were, he didn't have to come back. That was one of the things they liked about him that helped him, him check out is that he didn't have to come back. He suffered a pretty serious ankle injury. Like you said, he missed some time. But then he elected to come back when, quite frankly, he didn't need to come back for his draft prospects.
And, I'll refer back to Justin Herbert for a second because, when I watched Justin Herbert play, I said, hey, everyone, like he's got a lot of talent. And I want to see him in a better fit offensively. Like I just want to see him in a pro offense where he's got pro wide receivers and whatnot. And I was right. And the thing about Kayvon Thibodeaux, I say the same thing as well, because if you watched him play in Oregon, he dropped into coverage 8 times a game. He played Sam linebacker.
Right.
He played inside on rundowns.
Just let him rush the quarterback.
Yeah, just let him. And I think the Giants will be like, you know what, buddy, this is where you're lining up. Go get the quarterback. And I think he'll be good. I think he'll be good. I really think that they got themselves a good player here. And again, like to think he doesn't want this, man. He grew up in South Central Los Angeles. Like to say that he doesn't want to be great, like he just is. I just don't believe all these things about him not loving football. Like this is his dream, his passion to go to the NFL, to play college football, to he was a 5-star recruit. Like again, go watch his film as a true freshman, as a true sophomore. And then last season. So I don't buy this like doesn't love football thing. I just don't get it, man. If you listen to him talk about his upbringing, his childhood, what he went through, where he went to, and how he got to where he is, like, of course he loves football.
Look, okay. So when I talk to NFL people, most of them really, they agree. I really didn't speak to one person who thought that was overly concerning, that part of it. To me, it was their evaluation of him as a player. It seemed to be a disconnect between the public perception that he's, freakish, outrageous, like he's the Chase Young level, Myles Garrett level prospect, and the idea that he in a better draft year, he's probably a borderline top 10 pick in their minds because they didn't see counter moves, they didn't see a lot of depth to his game. They thought he was a little bit on the smallish side. Like he didn't have when they looked at him, they're like, oh, he's not that big. They didn't see Jadeveon Clowney, which is the comparison a lot of people make.
That's the media.
And then he has that first step, and that's like his skill. And if you don't develop beyond that, it's hard to just win with the first step at the NFL game.
Sure, but
what do you say to that?
Maybe the media shouldn't compare a guy who's 250 pounds to Clowney and Myles Garrett. Like that's not his fault.
So it's almost like there's an unrealistic expectation on him that he's that kind of prospect. He's more like the next tier prospect, probably. Well, like that would be fair to him.
I know that this is obviously a comparison that's not fair to Kayvon, but the defensive coordinator at Oregon last year coached Von Miller at A&M, and he says he's more comparable to him, just body structure, than he is to Clowney. He's 6'3.5", 250. That's what Von Miller is, right? Like the first step, right? Like, of course, Von is better than him, and it's hard to be Von Miller, but that's the comparison. It's not Clowney or Myles Garrett. I think we just thought.
Again, when you're comparing him to Von Miller, the expectations now are so high.
But I think just, of course, this is coach speak, right? It's a coach saying like, hey, the body structure of this player is more like Von Miller than it is Clowney. Like,
so let's say a lesser Von Miller.
Yeah, of course. No one's Von Miller. No one's Aaron Donald. I get that. But
I think people, especially when he's drafted 5th, are going to want him to be Von Miller. Produce like Von Miller and be an all-pro like Von Miller.
And I think he can get there. I'm just not as down on him as other people have been. Like, I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars drafted a guy who had 9 sacks in 3 seasons. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's a different conversation for another day. The whole Trayvon Walker.
I'm just saying, like, people have more faith in a player that didn't produce at all in college because he has tools, like physical traits, but not the guy that produced in college and still also has physical traits.
The one thing that really stood out to me when you talk about producing is Thibodeauxs' pressure rate, which is something that seems to be an analytic that translates to the NFL, was really high. I think he was at 17% or so pressure rate, which is really good. So that gives me hope that, all right, it's there. They just need to unlock it and refine him, and we'll see what he kind of develops into there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So overall, you like the Giants draft. You're high on those two guys, so I assume you like the Giants draft class.
Yeah, I don't really.
Know anything about it, Zudu or McKeithen?
No, not really. I don't really pretend to prepare for the draft outside of the top 2 rounds.
Right.
I don't have time.
Those first 2 guys because that's your wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I'm also just full time doing other stuff. It's hard to just know. I leave the draft grades up to Dane Brugler and a bunch of the other guys that that's Kuiper. What they do.
We're ESPN. It's Kuiper and McShay.
Yeah,
and Matt Millen.
Sorry. I have to. Yes,
and Jordan Reed.
Yes, for company purposes, it is those 4 guys. Yes,
no one else exists.
And Matt and I talk quite often, so I love Matt. We used to have dinner every year at the Super Bowl. He wasn't able to go this past year. I was sad. But yeah, those are if you're drafting an offensive lineman outside the top 2 rounds, you're drafting them for probably depth in the first year, and then hopefully they become a starter at some point. So I know people thought the Wanda Robinson pick was a little rich at that time. I don't know, man. I have no idea.
Yeah, I was speaking to an executive today who didn't really think it was much out of the range that they kind of expected him to go. So
yeah, again, it's all draft boards every team has their own draft board, obviously. I think that the consensus media big boards are probably pretty close this year. Obviously, quarterback was probably pretty off. I feel like everyone else is pretty right about Cole Strange, except the Patriots had a much higher grade than anyone else did. But
We'll see.
They're
We'll
about
see. I
right,
don't know.
So we'll see.
I
So,
know he
yeah,
hasn't fared
so
that
it's
well in the draft, but I in general, considering the results, I don't know if I'm going to bet hard against Bill Belichick. But hey, that's just me.
Duke can coach, man. Like that's the thing about like I don't know if they're ever going to like win Super Bowls with Mac Jones, but I mean they made the playoffs with Mac Jones. Like how many coaches are making the playoffs with Mac Jones?
Yeah, well,
in a division with Buffalo.
I think he could be pretty good. I'm a Mac guy. I like.
Are
Mac.
you?
Yeah, I do. But that's not for this podcast. So
no, it's not.
We're gonna wrap it up here so that we don't go too long. But we appreciate it. Continued success, Geoff.
Thank you.
We not everybody saw this from New York. You know those final few years in New York to here, but we know you put in the hard work and you deserve all the success.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So we'll talk again soon.
All right, take care, guys.
On to the next one.